deathbed. He's in a jungle. His wife is around him. They are all alone. There is nobody inside. He is dying. His wife, she's crying. Tears are flowing from his eyes. Why? Because she has no shroud. She has no coffin to give him coffin in. And there is nobody to help her if Abu Zar dies. There's nobody there to bury him. Look at the level of iman. Sayyidina Abu Zar radiallahu ta'ala says to his wife, "Oh my wife, you needn't worry, because he sallallahu alayhi wasallam had prior to this informed me that I, Abu Zar, will die in a jungle." And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that a group of believers will come and they will participate in your janazah. "Oh my wife, can you not see that I am in a jungle and I'm dying in a jungle?" And you will see that a group of believers will definitely come and they will offer my janazah. And it so happens, just like Abu Zar says, a group of believers come and they offer Sayyidina Abu Zar radiallahu ta'ala anhu's janazah and they bury him. This was the level of iman, because this is what the Quran demanded. This is what the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam demanded. Such became the level of iman that when the likes of Harith ibn Malik were asked by Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, "Kayfa asbahta ya Harith?" "O Harith, how did the morning pass?" He replied, "Ya Rasulullah, mu'minan haqqan," as a true believer. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked, "Inna li kulli qawlin haqiqatun, fama haqiqatu ma taqul?" "O Harith, everything has a reality. What is the reality behind what you say?" He replies, "Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I have secluded myself from the dunya. During the day I fast, during the night I stay awake, and such has become of me as if I can see the arsh of the Almighty Allah. Such has become of me as if I can see the people of Jannah visiting one another in Jannah. Such has because of me as if I can see the people of hell being punished and crowding besides one another in the fire of hell." Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Anta imra'un nawwara Allahu qalbak arafta falzam." "O Harith, you are such a man whose heart Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has illuminated. You have come to know, you have recognized, and you stay by this." Such became the level of iman that the whole world could go on one side. But in spite of this, they were not prepared to leave one teaching of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The whole world could gang upon them, and pressure could be applied from all directions. The world, in spite of its vastness, could become tight of them. But in spite of this, they were not prepared to leave one teaching of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam leaves this world, and the Muslims are shocked. The Muslims cannot believe what has happened. They're in a state of shock. They're panicking. The enemy is on the increase. People are becoming murtad left, right and center and leaving the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The hypocrites are causing problems. On top of this, the Sahaba are saying to Sayyidina Abu Bakr, "O Abu Bakr, the army unit under the leadership of Sayyidina Usama, which Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent himself, stop this army unit." My brothers, such was the level of iman of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, that in spite of all this worldly pressure and all this that was going against Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, pressure that if it was on the mountains would crack. He says to the Sahaba and he says to the Muslims, "لو جرت الكلاب بأرجل أزواج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما رددت شيئا وجهه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم." That even if dogs were to come and took out the feet of the wives of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr would not stop the army unit which he sallallahu alaihi wasallam has dispatched himself. Now moving on to the reason as to why I chose this title and the reason this introduction was mentioned. We were the lucky ones. We were the lucky ones that of all the people that have ever existed, right from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, right till the day of judgment, we were the lucky ones and we were the fortunate ones that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us with this gift of iman. And we received this gift without any effort. We received it without crying. We received this gift without begging the Almighty Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose us out of the millions. And the reason the Almighty Allah chose us is because the Almighty Allah loved us. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself said, "إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُؤْتِي الْمَالَ مَنْ يُحِبُّ وَمَنْ لَا يُحِبُّ وَلَا يُؤْتِي الْإِيمَانَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَحَبَّ فَإِذَا أَحَبَّ اللَّهُ عَبْدًا أَعْطَاهُ الْإِيمَانَ." That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to pound notes and the Queen's pound notes, He gives them to anyone. Those He likes, those He does not like. But when it comes to iman, He does not give it to anyone. He gives it to those He loves. When He loves a person, He gives them iman. You were the lucky ones that received this gift of Iman. And you received it because He loved you. You knew the value of Iman. You knew what this Iman was worth. You knew nothing can touch it. You knew nothing can equal it. You knew a universe full of diamonds would look silly before it. Why? Because this is the key to Jannah. This is the key to eternal success. This is the key to the pleasure of the Almighty Allah. I ask, when you knew that this is the difference between heaven and hell, and you knew that this is the key to the pleasure of Allah, and you knew that this is the key to salvation and Jannah, then why is it after September the 11th you were prepared to sacrifice this gift and this Iman which is priceless for nuts? It was the first test of your life, living in a minority in a Western society. You were never tested before this. I was never tested before this. It was the first test of our lives. And we failed this test. We were not beaten. We were not persecuted. We were not tormented. Bullets didn't come flying at us. Daisy cutters and these bombs didn't land on our houses. The brains of our children and their skulls were not used as footballs. Our mothers and our daughters were not ripped before our very own eyes. All that happened was there was a little pressure. It was applied in the form of the news. It was applied in the form of the media. It was applied in the form of the radio station. All there was a little pressure. Islam was being ridiculed. Islam was being mocked. And all of a sudden, you wanted to disassociate yourself from certain teachings of Islam. The Quran was mocked. The Quran was ridiculed. And I can only give you a few examples because of the time that I've got left. The Quran was ridiculed. And one of the allegations that was made was that this book is an old book. It is a 1400-year-old book. It has been handwritten probably by this guy that they call Muhammad. Na'udhu billah, the way they put it. It is an old book. Surely a book this old cannot govern a people that live in the age of technology, in the age of science. Surely this book there needs to be amendments to this book. When these allegations were made and the pressure was applied, all of a sudden doubts began to creep in our minds. Maybe this book is old. Maybe some change needs to be made to this book. Let us very briefly look how old this book is. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago that these mountains have roots, and these roots go right deep inside the earth. Science has just discovered this now. When Europe was in the Dark Ages and they used to think that the earth was flat, Quran made statements with regards to this, which led the Muslim scientists to believe that the earth was round. 1400 years ago the Quran did this. In the field of astronomy, they have just discovered that the universe is expanding all the time. The Quran mentioned this 1400 years ago. Inna lamusi'un. The French oceanographer Jackie, who's considered to be an authority in undersea exploration, he embraces Islam. Why does he embrace Islam? Because he comes to realize that inside the oceans there are sweet springs, and the sweet water does not mingle with the salty water of the sea. Only to realize that the Quran has mentioned this 1400 years ago. وَهُوَ الَّذِي مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ هَذَا عَذْبٌ فُرَاتٌ وَهَذَا مِلْحٌ أُجَاجٌ وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخًا وَحِجْرًا مَعْجُورًا. Only to realize 1400 years ago that the Quran has mentioned this, and he embraced Islam. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago that there is darkness inside the sea, and there are layers of darkness one after the other. Your science has just discovered this now. أو كظلمات في بحر اللجي يغشاه موج من فوقه موج من فوقه سحاب ظلمات بعضها فوق بعض. Tell me which is older of the two. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago with regards to the fire in the oceans. والطور وكتاب مسطور في رك منشور والبيت المعمور والسقف المرفوع والبحر المسجور. Your science has just discovered this now. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago with regards to the orbit of the sun. كُلٌّ فِي فَلَكٍ يَسْبَحُونَ. Your science has just discovered this now. The Quran mentions 1400 years ago وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ, that every living thing was created from water. Your science has just discovered this now. The Thai scientist, Professor Tajatan, he embraced Islam. Why? Because he sees that the Quran makes a reference to the dermatological phenomenon in the verse of the Quran. كُلَّمَا نَدِجَتْ جُلُودَهُمْ بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودًا غَيْرَهَا. And he embraces Islam. Why? Because science has just discovered this now. The Quran makes a mention with regards to honey, that in it there is cure for mankind. Your science is still discovering the different illnesses that it can cure. The Quran makes a mention that the winds have a distribution. وَالنَّاشِرَاتِ نَشْرًا, an organized distribution. فَالْفَارِقَاتِ فَرْقًا, your science has just discovered this now. The different types of a cloud and their names which are used today was mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago. أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يُزْجِي سَحَابًا ثُمَّ يُؤَلِّفُ بَيْنَهُ, and so forth. Tell me which is the oldest of the two. The Quran, yet the Quran is not a book of miracles, it is a book of guidance.